This is the authentic and honest and transparent review by an engineer of the new Volvo XC90 plug-in hybrid called the T8. Of course, the XC90 has been around for some time, and it came in several different variations, including the T5, the T6, and now this T8. The T8 is special because it is a plug-in hybrid with 2 electric motors in addition to the 6-cylinder engine borrowed from the T6 model. So you can see the plug-in port right here, and of course otherwise you cannot tell that this car is an actual plug-in hybrid. It functions a lot like a normal hybrid, except you can actually plug in and driving in electric mode. And the only unfortunate thing is that the range is quite short, shorter than other competitors from BMW and Audi. But let's just briefly talk about the exterior now. So the design is quite timeless. It hasn't changed for several years now, but it has a presence. It does look like a flagship Volvo, and it does look still very modern, refined and smooth. There's nothing that says this car is actually several years in terms of design. This massive 22-inch wheels right now shrouded with the winter tires looks immense in this car, and it is actually quite stunning. So let's look at the quality. As an engineer, I design and build cars for a living, so I have a different perspective on the overall quality feel from other reviewers. So in terms of, first of all, the paint job, the car is a little dirty right now, but I will give it about a B to B plus. It's not exceptional, partly because it's obviously we are heading into winter, and perhaps the paint hasn't been given the freshest of the wax. But all the Volvo cars I've seen has a bit of an orange peel here, you can see in the light, and so I would say it's a B plus paint job. In terms of fit and finish though, if you run your finger all the way through here, and I'll take my gloves off here for a second so that you can actually see this better. If you run your finger through the edges, you can tell how well built the body panel is. And this is one of the very important indicator of a quality fit and finish and the build of the car. You can see that between the hood and the fender, the level, the actual body panels are very tight. And even though this side is slightly higher than that side, actually this is pretty good. I would say this is Lexus quality. You'll notice here though there's it becomes a little bit narrow here, then wide again, so not maybe quite as good as, let's say, a Toyota or a Lexus, but in terms of European models, this is like really good. Same thing with the door and the fender fit, good consistent gap all the way through. And same thing between the front and the rear door. Between the rear door and the back fender is very tight, really good fit and finish. So overall, I would give the body quality A minus, I would say. The overall quality is fantastic. What else can I say about the design? It's a timeless design, not particularly all that maybe unique, but you can tell it's a Volvo from much distance away, and it doesn't look outdated. I think it's a clean, understated look. And in comparison to, say, a BMW X7 with a huge massive grille, this is cleaner looking. It's just a more refined look. I don't usually like blue color that much, but this subtle blue is an excellent addition to this car. It looks fantastic. Let's take a quick look inside in terms of design. Now, as an engineer, I would never recommend that you buy these light colored colors, because no matter how careful you are, they're going to get dirty. At some point, you're going to forget that you shouldn't wear a blue jeans on a white leather, and it's gonna rub off. And so you can already see on this particular one, even though the fit and finish and quality is excellent, the dirt has really rubbed off onto this leather. And so I wouldn't recommend that you do, but anyway, nevertheless, in terms of design, it looks stunning to have some of the light color leather contrasting the dark gray or black interior trims. Just commenting further on the interior, Volvo has gone into a Tesla-like tablet. It's a 9-inch tablet. That's quite a huge, immense tablet in the middle here, and it's incorporated almost everything in there, with the exception of some control on and off or pause of the radio, some defroster or defogger, and of course the transmission and so forth are still an actual buttons, and there's a number of controls on the steering wheel, of course, but otherwise pretty well everything is being placed into this tablet. And I would say that's one pet peeve in terms of design. While it's clean and a beautiful design, it's well built, I would say it's not as intuitive. It's going to take you a bit of a time to get used to exactly how to operate this, and you have to keep on pressing this home button to get to numerous access to other features. And once you begin to access the more advanced feature, the icons are actually quite small, and changing some of these features are obviously very easy once you get to know it. But if you're not used to it, let's say in comparison to some of the simpler interface you see in other competitors, this isn't the easiest one to use. I got frustrated trying to get to know this panel. I did obviously eventually manage to figure everything out, but if you aren't used to Volvo interface, you're going to get a little bit frustrated with the way it's been designed. Otherwise, clean dash, great, very good visibility. I love the matte carbon fiber look on this particular R-Design model, and a great stereo sound as well. Another complaint I have, which is something that you would just simply get used to normally, is the fact that when you start the car, well, that's okay. Starting the car requires this little knob to be turned clockwise. So this is how you start and stop the car. But to go forward, you cannot just simply put it into drive once. You gotta actually do it twice. If you do it once, it just goes into neutral. Same thing if you go into reverse. Once we'll put it into neutral, and then 2 clicks will put it into reverse, and which will bring up the camera. So every time you wanna start driving away on this Volvo, which is true of all Volvo cars, you're gonna do it twice to go forward, then press P to park, or twice this way to go backward, and then press P again. And then of course you might think that if you're going to turn clockwise to turn the engine on, then you turn counterclockwise to turn off the engine like in a Porsche, but actually that isn't the case. You go clockwise to turn on the engine, and clockwise again to turn off the engine. So those two things, you will obviously simply get used to it once you own this car and you start driving as a daily user. But it's not intuitive, and it's counterproductive in comparison to other brands. Not quite sure why Volvo did that. I suppose it's just a particular way that they want to do. So once again, that's my 2 complaints. You gotta hit twice, either forward or backward, to put into transmission, to drive or reverse, and to turn on and off the engine, it's clockwise all the time, not clockwise then counterclockwise. Now the beauty of this car, of course, is that it starts off in electric mode as a plug-in hybrid. So whenever you start driving, it has extraordinary smooth, quiet start, because it's all motor doing the powering in the beginning. So it starts off, and at some point the engine comes on once you start to push on the accelerator. And so that smooth transition is one thing that I really like about plug-in hybrid in general. It makes the car extra smooth and refined, and you won't be able to find that kind of feel in normal gasoline engine cars or even the regular hybrid, because most cars do not start off with electric motor only. Now I will say though, if you're talking about the driving character, as an automotive evaluation engineer, I've gone through years and years of evaluating a car and to benchmark it against each other, as I worked for a number of large car companies. And I will say that in this particular car, the feel of the steering is I would say it's average for this type of car in comparison to, let's say, a BMW X5 or X7, compared to Audi Q7 or Lexus, maybe even Lexus GX. It's I would say the steering has a reasonably decent amount of road feel, but it's on the lighter side. Much like a BMW these days, they have a very light steering as well. I find the Audi has a slightly more engaging feel these days. And surprisingly, the Lexus GX, which is an much older design, actually has a pretty good road feel because Lexus GX still uses hydraulic steering in comparison to electrical mechanical steering in most other brands. Anyway, going back to steering feel, you won't find anything special, but it's smooth, quiet, and there's just enough feedback from the road to give it a sense of luxury, sense of composure. But if you're thinking that this might be a sportier Volvo in terms of driving, you're not gonna get that. Now I can change the drive mode and move it into Polestar engineered mode, which will, as you can see, the engine just got started because it's in the performance mode. You do have to engage that every single time you start the car. It doesn't remember the last setting, and the steering gets a little bit heavier. The acceleration kicks it up a notch because transmission shifts a little bit faster. It is still not sporty, so if you're looking for sporty three row crossover or SUV, this isn't the car for you. But if you're looking for refined, quiet, whisper quiet, I would even say, car with a very smooth transition as you drive faster and faster, well, this Volvo definitely does not disappoint. In terms of braking, the brake feel is good. Brake feel is actually quite solid. The ride is firm, even though it's 22-inch. On this particular car, you get a 22-inch tire, and I'm surprised how actually compliant the suspension is, despite the fact that it's quite a low profile tires. So no complaints there. Seats are comfortable, multi-adjustable in this particular model, and like I said, this panel is a bit awkward to use, but all the other elements of the car works really great. I love the basic design inside and out. The stereo sounds great as well, and not much else to complain about the interior of the car. I didn't say too much about the acceleration, but the car accelerates smoothly, as I mentioned, because it starts an electric motor unless you put it in the performance mode. But otherwise, it's got a great 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 performance. Just great speed that comes immensely, thankfully, because of the electric motor working in conjunction with the gasoline engine. And so you'll enjoy this car as an everyday car, very comfortable and smooth. Not much to complain there. To conclude, here's my conclusion as an automotive evaluation engineer. Overall quality in terms of fit and finish, and the build quality, I give it a B to B. I give it a A minus in terms of the overall build. It's excellent. As you know, Volvo is now owned by Geely, which is a Chinese company, but that hasn't affected the quality and fit and finish of this car at all. In fact, it's probably improved because they have the funding now and the budget to make a proper production system and engineering for this car. So overall quality is excellent. Performance is smooth and refined. Again, if you're looking for sort of a sporty, engaging, performance-oriented car, in terms of handling, this isn't for you. But in terms of acceleration, because of the electric motor working in conjunction with the gasoline engine, it has immense acceleration. In my review, I don't quote all these numbers about the horsepower and so forth, which is 400 power on this one, because you really want to know things that an evaluation engineer would tell you, which is me, which is the feel, the ride, the engagement of the car, all the spec and the features and the pricing. You can look that up on the Volvo website or other consumer site. I'm not going to waste your time on those. I'm only going to tell you things that you cannot tell from a static website. So that's the feel, the character, and so forth. So again, to finish off, smooth, refined, silky smooth, refined car. Represent the great flagship of a Volvo. In terms of the hybrid technology, it's a bit behind other competitors because the the range is too short, and so it's a bit of a cheating hybrid, plug-in hybrid, I would say. And because of the hybrid technology, it also brings the price point a little bit higher than I would like. It's more expensive than you think. But if you really want a 3-row luxury Volvo SUV and you want a more understated look, this is the car for you. I love the feel of the car, very smooth, very quiet, and very modern in many ways. You'll look fresh and modern even several years from now on. Is it the best SUV in this marketplace? That's going to be a hard one to say. I think the BMWs and Audis are a little bit more engaging to drive, and you've got other manufacturers coming up with really great model. Acura just announced a new MDX, which is coming out any moment now, and that will have perhaps more feature and will have updated engineering in comparison to this car, which is several years old. But all in all, impressive package, great looking luxury SUV with a Volvo name. So there you have it. I like the car, and it will continue to age well.